Today I'm going to give you a little bit of information about battling anxious thoughts. I'm going to give just kind of one quick tip on how to challenge those thoughts. But before I do that, I want to give you a little bit of information that you may or may not know about anxious thoughts. And the first thing is, our brain is wired to fill in gaps of missing information. So when we don't know what's going to happen, we have a tendency to fill in that information with a scenario that we imagine. However, the thoughts that lead to feeling anxious, fearful, or worry is that something bad is going to happen. So what we're doing is we're kind of projecting and determining what the future is going to hold, but we do it with negative things. Let me give you an example. When it comes to anxiety or anxious thoughts producing anxiety, anxious feelings in us, we're not worried that good things are going to happen. I don't worry that I'm going to win the lottery. I don't worry that people are going to love and everything that I say or do. It's the opposite. We worry that people aren't going to like us, or we worry that we're not going to have enough provision. So do you see how anxious thoughts lead to fearful feelings? And it's that, again, filling in the gaps of missing information with the scenarios that are negative in nature. So one of the things that we teach in cognitive behavioral therapy is that we need to retrain our brain not to do that. Well, how do we do that? The Bible has already spoken to this for centuries and centuries, and that is in Philippians 4:8. It says what we're supposed to put our thoughts on, things that are lovely and delightful and true and worthy of praise. And so we have to be very intentional to combat those negative thoughts with positive thoughts. Well, what's more positive than God's word or the very character of God himself? And when I'm faced with an anxious thought, one of the questions I will use to challenge that anxious thought is, who is God in the midst of this? And let me give you an example in real time. We're dealing with a pandemic, so life is pretty uncertain. We can't really make a lot of plans for the future, for next week for that matter, because we don't know, and it feels very out of control. And when I think everything is out of control, or I think I have no control over it, and I worry about what's going to happen as a result, it helps me to know that there is somebody in control of the future, and that's God. So I will begin to focus on the character of God in the midst of a situation. So in this scenario, I really focus on his sovereignty. He's in control over everything, even when it feels like I don't have control or the world is out of control, and that he's faithful, that he's trustworthy, that he has plans that are good, and nobody can thwart the purposes of God. It's helpful for me to grasp onto those truths and begin to meditate on those. Wherever you steer, you will go. So if you are steering towards all the things that could go wrong, the anxiety and the fear will begin to grow inside of us and feel overwhelming. But when we are purposeful to shift and at least spend an equal amount of time on the goodness of God and who he is and his character and his attributes, then what you're doing is you're challenging the thought and you're retraining your brain to begin heading in that direction rather than the direction of all the things that are going wrong or could go wrong. Hopefully that helps. This is just one way. There are many ways, but this is just one way that we can challenge those thoughts and begin to retrain our brain.